Now I know what you guys are saying. You're probably thinking to yourselves right now, another video about something Michael Pachter said. And yeah, of course, because he says a lot of interesting things that leads to some great discussion. And that's the topic for this video. What's going on, guys? Randall Thor 19, the man with the million, back again with another video. And yes, this is going to be another video about something Michael Pachter says, because as I said in the intro, his points also lead to some great discussion topics, and this one is very much that. So we have here, I'm on Gaming Bolt, Xbox is too profitable for Microsoft to quit the market, Michael Pachter. Now this is something a lot of fanboys always argue, like, oh, Xbox is going to leave. There was all those rumors at the beginning of the gen that they were going to sell off to Amazon and stuff, and here's Michael Pachter coming out and saying, nah, man, they make way too much money for Microsoft to ever consider leaving. Now, if you don't know, Michael Pachter is an analyst with Webburst Industries. He does stock market things and things like that, and he kind of covers the video game market, as a hobby. But he also comments on, when we're going to talk about this too, on whether the lack of big exclusives for Xbox One will be detrimental to its success. Obviously, the more exclusives, the better, and I've also been critical of Microsoft's lack of exclusives lately. This year has probably been the worst year for Xbox exclusive-wise in a long time. But then I want to also point out some kind of another article from a time not that long ago where people were saying, oh, it's certain that Microsoft is going to leave. But let's get into the vid, shall we? So, as we know, Xbox One is launching this year, and you could say a lot is riding on the console. Although I don't necessarily think a lot is riding on the console. They do have a cheaper system to sell, which is going to sell the most, but it's a new system. They obviously want it to be adopted well enough. Now, the article says, however, if it were to underperform, which isn't an entirely improbable proposition given its price and it's going up against a dominant Sony and a resurgent Nintendo, is it possible that Microsoft might just, give up on the console market? And that's the question that asked Michael Pachter. And he said, no, I don't think so. Xbox consoles are widely profitable. We are concerned about worrying about who is first and who is second, but that's like saying Pepsi doesn't sell as much cola as Coke does. Why not just shut down? Or Burger King doesn't sell as many hamburgers as McDonald's, so why not shut down? They're both profitable. Who cares? The only people who care are fanboys. And that quote, that final line, should cut to the truth of a lot of people. The only people who care are fanboys. So if you're out there saying, basically touting one console manufacturer over another based on sales, then basically Michael Pachter is calling you a fanboy. Because it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, they're both profitable. Who cares? Coke sells more Coke than Pepsi sells Pepsi products, but Pepsi's still around because there's enough money to go around in the gaming industry, right? But it's interesting, though, because you have a bunch of different analysts, and you can tell who the ones you can talk about. And yes, I've always kind of joked around about Michael Pachter and the things he says. Usually the opposite tends to turn out to be true. So while he says Xbox is profitable and won't be shut down, like the title says, too profitable for Microsoft to quit the market, my initial reaction when I saw that was, shit. They're not profitable and they're about to quit the market. But that's kind of just jokes, I know he's right some of the times and stuff like that. And they always say a broken clock is right twice a day. I just thought that was kind of funny. It's like, because I did the thing with Sony yesterday, what he says, but then I ended up agreeing with what he said. But I always kind of laugh about that. I'd be like, well, damn, he just said they're profitable and not going to leave. Now that means they are going to leave and they're not profitable. But even if you take a look last year, and now this isn't going to be from Michael Pachter, it's somebody else, on this very website, exactly almost a year ago, Microsoft's set to leave the console hardware market, says analyst DFC. So the narrative that Microsoft's going to leave the console hardware has been very much around for a while now, definitely since the beginning of this gen, and even up into a year ago last gen. But for some shits and giggles, let's take a look at this article and see what reasons DFC analyst DFC. Are they really an analyst if they said this? Why Microsoft would leave? What was their reasons they gave last year? Okay, so let's see. The most immediate problem is Microsoft effectively killed the Xbox One Slim right out of the gate. If there were many Xbox 360, Wii U, and even PlayStation consumers interested in Xbox One this holiday season, they have now been told to wait until Scorpio arrives in 2017. Microsoft can only hope that the buzz around Project Scorpio goes away soon, but the cat is out of the bag is unlikely. So they're one of the many people last year that said nobody was going to buy an Xbox One S because the Scorpio was coming the year after. All those people that said that basically have egg on their faces because the Xbox One Slim sold extremely well. I mean, I know it's sold, outsold the PlayStation for 4 months, and then the PlayStation eventually regained it. But the Slim is a great product. Microsoft is selling a lot of consoles, just not as many as PlayStation. But these were one of the group of people that couldn't understand why they would announce 2 systems in one show, even though Sony basically announced 2 systems in one show later on in the year with the Pro and the Slim. But, we're not going to talk about that. And then he goes on to say, there are all kinds of other problems with Microsoft's messaging. The pricing on the original Xbox One is great, and the Slim is wonderful, but all the important new games will be on PC, so why invest in console? Just upgrade your PC. And if you do want a console, why buy now when Scorpio will be here later? All of this is a net dampener on new hardware sales now and really opens the door wide for Sony, even Nintendo for NX. That's the thing people don't understand. It's easy to just say, just upgrade your PC. Why invest in console? But for a lot of people, they don't want to upgrade their PC to play video games. For a lot of people out there, a PC is where you write papers or do Excel spreadsheets or browse the internet and do emails. For a vast majority of people, that is what PC is. It's not for PC gaming. Some people just like the console experience. And this person at DFC is basically saying, why do all that stuff when you can just upgrade your PC, And if you want to buy a console now, why buy now when there's Scorpio? It's like it's like this person who's an analyst, a supposed analyst, doesn't really understand the market or the market conditions. There are tiers of consumers out there. The ones that are willing to spend $700 on something, the ones that are willing to spend $500 on something, the ones that are willing to spend $300 on something, the ones that are willing to spend $200 on something. There are so many tiers, and as the tiers get lower and lower, the fucking pool of people expands. The cheaper a product gets, right? So the people willing to buy a system at $500 is a hell of a lot smaller than the people willing to buy a system at $200. So the fact that this guy even asked to ask this question, you should know that he isn't someone you should take at his word. He's basically questioning why buy now when Scorpio's later. It's like, I don't know, dude, maybe because right now you can get an Xbox One for $250, but the Scorpio's $500. Not everybody wants to spend $500 on a system. I thought that is apparent to a lot of people. And then, of course, he goes on to say, the biggest issue is whether Microsoft will even have a game division by the time Project Scorpio is launched. Jesus Christ. It is no small irony that E3 events went on at the exact same time as Microsoft bought LinkedIn. Jesus. The overall question now seems to be not if Microsoft will exit the business, but when and how. Of course, that leads to many other questions. Is Xbox spun off? Does Microsoft find a buyer? Does the company just shut Xbox down? DFC feels the later option most likely not occur, but it's clear something must be done. So like I said, that was literally a year ago from an analyst who clearly doesn't know anything about anything, and why anybody listens to analyst DFC is just, ugh. Anyways, that was off on a tangent because I just wanted to show that off because it was linked in this particular article. But here we have Michael Pachter. No, man, Xbox makes way too much money. It's not going anywhere. It's important to Microsoft. We heard that from Phil. We've heard that from the CEO of Satya himself, that gaming is an important part of Microsoft right now, and it's not going anywhere. Now, one of the issues I do see around a lot on YouTube, on Twitter, is the idea of why would you get an Xbox? Because it doesn't have any exclusives, or at least any meaningful exclusives, right? And meaningful, of course, what does that even really mean? Everything is subjective. People say, hey, you could get a PlayStation and play God of War and Spider-Man, but it's like, what if they're not interested in God of War and Spider-Man? What if they're interested in Crackdown and State of Decay? That's why you really can't say that, because what people like is a subjective experience. And honestly, some people get consoles only to play Call of Duty and Madden and games like that, and they have no interest in Crackdown 3 or State of Decay 2 or Halo or God of War or Last of Us or Uncharted, right? I mean, that's just kind of the bare facts. But it needs to be addressed because the hardcore gamer, the PlayStation fan and the Xbox fan want to know. And they asked Pachter if not having a Horizon or a Zelda will be a detriment to its sales potential. And he goes, I think it's something they should address. And I agree with Pachter on this. They should address this. And Phil did say recently that they did sign some deals, so maybe they are. It just won't happen for a while. But he goes on to say, I just don't know if that's a priority to them, and I don't know if they have an internal studio that's on par with Sony's internal studios, so I don't know. Horizon was Guerrilla, and those guys are really good. It's hard to come up with stuff like that. Unless Microsoft does something like buy Take-Two or develop Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead as exclusives, it would be hard for them to come up with something like this. So yes, they should do it, but whether or not they are able to, I don't know if they can. Now that is an interesting point to make, because I agree with Michael Pachter on this. And this might ruffle some Xbox fans' feathers, but hear me out for a second here. Microsoft's internal studios are just not on the same caliber as Sony's internal studios. They just don't have their own Naughty Dog. Now, Guerrilla Games was nowhere near as good as Naughty Dog, in my opinion. The early Killzone games weren't very good. Now, I haven't played Horizon Zero Dawn yet, so I can't speak on the quality of that title. But when you compare first-party devs to first-party devs on Sony and Microsoft's side, we have Turn 10, and look, Turn 10 makes great racing simulation games that are probably better than Gran Turismo. I just have no personal interest in that, and it is kind of, telling that he says Horizon and Zelda, but not like any of the racing games, because the racing games used to be huge, big reasons for people to pick up systems, but not anymore. So they do Horizon, they do the Forza. 343 only does Halo. Coalition only does Gears, and that's basically about it. Like, Rare does Sea of Thieves, which we don't know about the quality of that game yet, because it's still coming out next year, so it's got some time. But if you want to go based on the quality of the titles or the Metacritic average of those games, I mean, Naughty Dog puts out games that are consistently in the 90s and are heralded as some of the best. Horizon Zero Dawn was an 88. Yes, I know Forza Horizon 3 was a 91, but it also wasn't really Microsoft's first party. And that's what he's talking about. He's talking about the idea of building a new Horizon or Zelda, and I don't know exactly if Microsoft can do that. Now, they'll build a Halo 6 and they'll build a Gears 5, and they probably both will be good games, and at least the Halo game will sell extremely well because it is Halo. But in my honest opinion is that Microsoft's first party studios aren't as good as Sony's, and that's just my honest opinion on that one. Microsoft, I don't think, will let any of those studios build anything other than what they're currently building. And I know the Forza franchise is a stellar and it's a consistent sales charter. People like but it doesn't get anybody excited anymore. We're literally on Forza 7, and it's worn out at this point. It still sells. It's still a great franchise. People still love to play it, but it doesn't generate the excitement that it used to. I mean, how can it? I mean, we're 7 iterations in of Forza Motorsport. I mean, 10 if you want to count the spin-off. Halo. We're at Halo 6. I mean, how many Halo games has there been? But, I mean, if you talk about the exclusives, yes, this year is kind of thin on exclusives to launch with Scorpio. Crackdown 3, I mean, I want to like the game. I've heard really good things about it, but I wouldn't necessarily categorize that as a killer exclusive. Super Lucky's Tale is going to, from all I hear, it's going to be a good game. But once again, a killer exclusive like Horizon or Zelda, I don't think so. Then what else you got? Forza's Forza, and that's really it for the exclusives this year. I mean, even on Sony's side, they have Gran Turismo, Knack 2. there's not that many. I mean, I guess you can throw in there the new Uncharted, but that really comes out in August. I wouldn't necessarily consider that a holiday release. But the exclusives will be kind of, tough. Not tough, but they're not going to be there this holiday. And the Xbox One, I don't necessarily think you need a game to sell the Xbox One X, because at that price, the hardcore Xbox fans are going to buy it. I'm buying it. Most of the people I know are buying it. And they would buy it regardless if it didn't come with any new games, because Microsoft has built the Xbox One X for it to play your games that you own better and all the future games the best up until they build another new system. So that's the idea. Like, it wasn't basically sold as this like, oh, you need to play this new game, because honestly, and this was one of the biggest problems I have with the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X, is all those games will play on the original systems. You can play Horizon Zero Dawn on your PS4. You're going to be able to play Crackdown 3 on your Xbox One. You know what I'm saying? Like, unless you have the disposable income, you have a 4K TV, and you're looking for the best of the best, then you don't really need to get an Xbox One or a PS4 Pro, or like Xbox One X or the PS4 Pro. You can easily just play those games on your regular systems. And I've always said resolution and all that stuff doesn't really matter. A great game is a great game regardless of the resolution it runs at or the frame rate it runs at. Horizon Zero Dawn is going to be an 88 on PlayStation 4 Pro and an 88 on PlayStation 4 Slim. And Crackdown 3 will be whatever it is on both. That's just the fact of the matter. But it's interesting to talk about these things because, here's this Xbox is too profitable. It's nice to, for that info to get out there, because some people, for whatever reason, still seem to doubt that. A lot of people out there still seem to doubt that Microsoft makes any money on the Xbox. They think that it's just a money pit, basically. Even though Phil's come out and said it's their best gen ever, and I remember people losing their minds over that one. He literally meant that it was basically their best gen making money. You got to think, they didn't make any money with the original Xbox. They had the Red Ring of Death on the 360, which hurt them severely. Other than like the 2013 stuff, they've sold systems. They're at like probably right around 30 million, if not higher. They sell a lot of DLC. They sell a lot of digital games. They sell a lot of Xbox Live subscriptions. So of course they're not going anywhere, and they make too much money for them to go anywhere. It's a business and it's profitable. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about some of this stuff, showcase some of these analysts that don't know what they're talking about, and just talk about the holiday games and things like that Pachter was talking about. Obviously, I think he thinks it's something they should address, but not necessarily something that will hold back the sales of the Xbox One X. I don't think not having a Horizon or Zelda will impact the Xbox One X, just like not having a game for the Pro last holiday. Remember, the Pro came out last holiday, and they didn't have anything for it, and Sony sold just fine, and the Xbox will sell just fine, with basically no super huge exclusive to sell for it. So anyways, those are my thoughts, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button. Follow me on Twitter at Rand_AL_Thor_19. All my links are in the description of the video if you want to follow me on Xbox Live, Twitter, Mixer, or PSN. I really do appreciate everybody watching the video, even if you watched it for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, or the entire length. I really do appreciate all you guys that tune in to watch the content daily. It makes me want to even create more content for you guys, so I'm really glad. And if you're new to the channel, if you like the video, if you like me, hit that sub button, hit the notification button if you haven't already. It really does mean a lot. And I will see everybody in the next video. Later, guys.